Hey everybody, Dr. Robert Pate here, licensed clinical psychologist. I'm here with Saul Salmeron, a licensed marriage and family therapist. So before we jump into our topic for the day, you want to just briefly let everybody know kind of what you've been working on, who you've been working with lately?
Yeah, of course. So currently, like Dr. Robert Pate said, licensed marriage and family therapist, currently been working with a lot of individuals and couples at the moment. That's kind of what the my current caseload looks like, and it's been super exciting to be able to work with those kinds of population at the moment.
Yeah. Am I remembering correctly that you've done some kind of immigration related work in the last, I don't know, year or two, something like that?
Yeah, I've been looking into doing some immigration reports. I know that's been something that's been standing out a lot. Currently haven't jumped into them officially, but definitely something that I am on the works with. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I just know you've always got a lot of different little projects and things you're working with. Oh, great. Well, what is it that you'd like to talk about today? I feel like we were talking a little bit about couples, and you just mentioned working with
Mhm.
individuals and couples. What's something around your couples work that's been jumping out lately?
Yeah, so just recently, some of the things that I've been noticing, right, is this idea of leaning in, right? Leaning in and what that looks like. A lot of couples I have found, specifically when it comes to conflict or just someone wanting to vent, right? And then the other partner, instead of just leaning in and just listening, one of the things that I've noticed is sometimes they want to jump to a solution, right? Sometimes want to jump into the conclusion. And most of the time, it's because they either really find it, oh, well, it's as easy as this, oh, well, it's easy as that. But the reality is what the other partner is trying to say is, hey, I'm not looking for an actual solution. I just want you to hear me out.
Hmm.
Because many times we hear solutions from everyone else. Oh, have you tried this? Oh, have you tried that? But when it comes to, our significant others, sometimes all they really want is for that person to lean in and be like, hey, I hear you, and it sucks that, this is what's going on and not offering any kind of solution. And when they're able to lean in, right? And that's what I like to call it, being able to gently lean in and just be like, hey, I hear you, and what you're saying is important. And I
Hmm.
just want to sit with you during this time. And that's one of the things that I've been noticing when couples are able to shift to that dynamic, man, it's night and day, because they both feel supported, they both feel heard, and one of them doesn't feel like they need to have the answer, and the other one knows that they can just be themselves and talk openly and not have to worry about, what their partner is going to say because they know they're going to be heard.
That's so interesting. So it sounds like there's a safety component involved,
Mm-hmm,
not necessarily like a violent safety, but like an emotional safety where it
mm-hmm,
sounds like what you're saying is that both people get to feel a little more comfortable in the situation. So if you've got the one person who isn't feeling heard, they're going to feel more safe if their partner leans in, as you're saying.
mm-hmm.
But I thought it was fascinating the way you mentioned kind of for the listening partner. How you said it takes the pressure off. Can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, because the reality is sometimes, they feel like they have to have all the answers, and the reality is we don't have to. It's okay not to have the answers, and when we know that that's not the expectation that's being placed on that person, man, there's so much freedom in that.
Mm.
And I think the other partner also notices that too. They're no longer having to perform. It's they just can be themselves.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's there is so much pressure in a relationship, whether it's a marriage or people are dating, just there's expectations flying around. But that's interesting if we were to just kind of throw out all the expectations and take a chance on just being present, it sounds like just kind
Mhm,
of being available, listening. And I'd love to hear in a second here what you might think about how somebody could do that. Like, how can they lean in? Like, what does that actually look like?
mhm,
Because it sounds like it takes the pressure off both people. The first person that's speaking just kind of gets to be authentic and share whatever's going on for them. But the other person, it takes the pressure off them having to have any kind of answer at all.
mhm,
Um, although I wonder maybe if the ability to do that, to just listen, that I wonder
mhm.
if that might be harder than we think.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It is. And that's, one of the cool things that we're able to jump into as therapists, specifically working with couples, is teaching them what it looks like to be able to just lean in and try to listen without having to offer any kind of solution. Right. And we know we throw out big words like, like active listening, active reflecting, and active listening is really just this idea of, you know, you hear the other person say something and you just actively repeat that. Hey, did I hear you say this correctly? you know
Mm.
and then the act of reflecting is like, hey, so you're feeling this way when this happens. And it's so beautiful to be able to see when they're actually utilizing that without them even knowing the big words that they're doing. And that's where we're able to step in and really help them in that area.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's this different language, maybe that you're
Hmm.
teaching them, kind of a relationship language instead of, it sounds like a problem-solving language that they might be
Hmm.
starting with.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that idea of leaning in, it's like you're getting closer to your partner as they get closer to the screen, and y'all can see my increasingly gray hair. Uh, having three kiddos and one that was sick this week probably doesn't help with that.
Oh yeah.
Especially dark circles today. Oh man, but that idea of being closer, and we talked about safety a minute ago, it's like if I can lean into my partner and not pressure them to take my advice or pressure them to take my answer and just let them be. I'm guessing that might actually help the speaker, not the listener, but if the listener is leaning in, creating some safety through active listening,
Hmm.
reflective listening, something like that, that might create that safe space that the speaker needs to be more close to their
Yeah.
partner, to feel less vulnerable and actually maybe then be receptive to some of that advice that the listener had to share in the first
Hmm.
place. They might actually care to listen to it because, oh, you listened to me first. Is that has that
Yeah.
been your experience with your couples?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the ways we can look at it is, like when we're talking to kids, right? When kids are crying or feel a little bit scared, what do grown-ups tend to do? What do the parents tend to do? They tend to get closer to them. They tend to, sit next to them or kind of hug them and say, "Hey, it's okay, I got you." Right?
Mm,
And it's the same thing with couples. It's like, it's okay to lean in. It's okay to kind of just sit next to them, hold their hand and be like, "Hey, it's okay," without offering any kind of solution, right? And just being there, being present, being still.
so I'm curious here. Um, I hear you talking about that, and I hear how you changed the tone of your voice.
Hmm.
And I'm just reminded of a moment with a student in class last night. Um, and they were talking about working with people in a prison setting and, working with men in a prison setting. And there's this kind of like, people might say toxic masculinity these days, but just this idea of like being a tough person, like a tough guy and
Yeah.
feelings aren't okay and all that. And I think there's probably some truth to that idea of toxic masculinity that sometimes we can take it a little far. But I think there's also value in being a strong, confident person and maybe not aggressive, but like being direct and clear in our communication.
Hmm.
I think that has value too. And maybe it can be confusing sometimes for men to know where do I go? Like what's okay? Am I okay to
Yeah.
just be me? And do I have to do that like soft and gentle voice that Saul
Hmm.
just said, or can I just be me and use my own words? And so, what would you say to maybe a male partner in couples therapy who hears you using those soft tones and it's just like, dude, I'm out. That's not me. I'm not mushy gushy. Like, what would you say to somebody like that? Is there a way that they can still do this?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is, right? The reality is they don't have to change who they are, right? That's not necessarily, what we're looking at. What we're looking at is, hey, it's just being able to understand your partner's needs, right? Because maybe your partner doesn't need that soft, gentle, voice. Maybe it's okay for them to be like, hey, it's all right. I'm hearing you out, and if that's all they need, that, right? And that is okay. You don't have to go all mushy gushy if you don't feel
Mm.
like that's who you are, because at the end of the day, you want to be your authentic self. And that's really what it's all about, and your partner knows that. Your partner knows, okay, this is who I'm with. I'm not expecting them to be this, and being able to know that. is important, right? It's not about, oh, you have to change and be mushy gushy. That's not what it has to be.
So I guess my key takeaway from what you shared today, Saul, would be that if there's a problem in communication, that it might be safety related, like that somebody
Mhm.
might not feel listened to, valued, respected, something like that. Um, and that a great way for the listening partner to convey that safety, um, that it's okay to be who you really are, is to demonstrate that they're listening, reflect back what their partner's sharing without trying to give advice, and to do that in a way that's true to who they actually are. Because it might
Absolutely.
actually be a little weird for the speaking
Hmm.
partner if all of a sudden out of nowhere they're typically kind of stoic or more gruff partner perhaps were to go all mushy gushy on. They might be like, who is this person and what did you do with my partner? Because this is weird and I don't trust it, right? It actually might be less
Yeah,
trustworthy. Did I get it right? Does that sound like kind of what you're trying to
absolutely.
say here? Okay, wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Um, we'll finish up here for today, but thank you so much for sharing that. I hope that's helpful for you, folks in relationships out there watching. Any final words here today, Saul?
No, that I'm just excited that if any of you guys, found this interesting or kind of noticing this dynamic in your current relationship, please feel free to, go on our website, give me a call. I really enjoy being able to, teach couples to be able to change their way of looking at things, but not necessarily making them all mushy gushy if that's not who they are, But
Got it.
I would love to be able to work with whoever.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Saul. Check out our other resources on the website. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Have a good one.